Welcome to the Having It All podcast, the show about what it takes to live an abundant, loving life. My name is Matthew Bivens, and each week I'm helping you get out of your head so that you can truly have it all. Let's do it.
What's going on, my awesome friend? Welcome back to the Having It All podcast. I am Matthew Bivens, your balanced lifestyle coach, and I am very pumped that you are hanging out with me here today on this beautiful day as we talk about having it all. You know, this is the podcast that you want to tune into every single week to learn how to have it all. Here, I hold the space for you. I hold the belief that you can have it all, I can have it all, we all can have it all, every single one of us. And I'm going to teach you how to rep that belief in your life, how to walk that belief out, how to truly go about your life, living an abundant, loving life, and creating the experience that you want. So this is the show to tune into to learn all about that beautiful stuff. Today's conversation, I'm very pumped about. I put on a collared shirt for this. I wanted to make sure my energy was right because we're talking about money today. This is all about getting a handle on your money. And so much of getting a handle on your money has to do with your energy. Oh yeah, your energy, your beliefs, your mindset. So that's why I wanted to come correct and really bring a powerful conversation, because my goal for you and the intention that I have is that you walk away from this feeling inspired and motivated to get a tighter handle on your money, and perhaps you pick up a couple of tools, resources, things that can help you along the way to really having the relationship and experience with your money that you really want to have. So that's what I'm playing for today. I'm excited about that. Before we jump into that, if you could please hit the subscribe button on whatever podcast app you are listening to this show right now with, whatever it is, hit subscribe. And when you have a free minute, if you can leave a rating and review as well. Both of those things are super, super helpful to me, very valuable. I love receiving your feedback. I want to know what you dig about this show, what you don't dig about the show, what you've taken from the episodes you listened to so far. I want to know all that stuff. So you can subscribe, leave a rating, leave a review. If you leave a review on anything other than Apple or iTunes, then take a screenshot of it and send it to me, because there's so many different places you can leave reviews these days. I might miss it, and I don't want to miss it. So just take a screenshot, send it to me. You can email me at matthew@matthewbivens.com, or you can hit me up on Instagram. I'm at Matthew_Bivens. You can shoot me a DM. That's all I do on Instagram these days, just DMs. So shoot me a DM there. And if you want to reach out about anything else as well, like if you want to suggest some topics, some things for me to talk about on the show, if you just want to say what's up, you want to show some appreciation, if you want to share with me what you got going on in your life right now, some struggles, some challenges, and you want me to hold space or give feedback, I'm down for that as well. Again, Matthew@MatthewBivens.com, or on Instagram at Matthew_Bivens. All right, let's kick this off by talking about some magic. I want to share some magical moments with you, because along with getting your money right, along with helping you have it all, I want you to be experiencing many more magical moments in your life. And magic, that is when you influence yourself, others, or life in an empowering way. Influencing yourself, others, or life in an empowering way. And the last little part is so important, because you can influence self, others, and life in a disempowering way. Oh, absolutely. Believe me, right? People can pick up your unhealthy habits. People can pick up your disempowering beliefs. Happens all the time. So magic is really celebrating those empowering, those positive influences, because we got to celebrate those. And I want you to feel like you have more experience spotting those magical moments in your life. I like to say magical moments are a byproduct of having it all. When you are living your abundant, loving life, when you feel like you have it all, you are creating magic all over the place. And magical things are happening all over the place. So I'm helping you to build that experience in spotting and acknowledging those magical moments. The one piece of magic I want to share with you today actually happened earlier this morning at my weekly workout. And one of the things that my coach. His name is Day Adioba. He's been my coach and mentor for about 8 years. And he's been talking to me recently about this idea of micro improvements or micro progressions. And simply put, it's this idea of making tiny, tiny gains on a daily basis, right? So if there's some goal that we have, and it could be specific or just like a general goal of improving ourselves, a lot of times we want to swing for the fences and try to get a home run and make a huge leap on something. But the idea of micro progressions or micro improvements is that what you actually want to shoot for are tiny, tiny little improvements and like little teeny tiny tweaks that you make that when you stack them up day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, they end up leading to huge leaps. So Day was talking to me about those, and I'm sort of logging it in my mind, like, all right, where and how can I apply micro progressions in my life? And so here I am this morning, I'm at my workout, and I've just been given an exercise that typically challenges me, some handstand presses. And so I start walking towards the wall to do the handstand presses. And normally, because mentally this exercise has sort of gotten in my brain, I feel like I have to stretch a little bit, pump myself up, take a few deep breaths, get into my position nice and steadily, and then kick up into the handstand. That's sort of how I've trained myself. But when I'm walking to the wall this morning, I said, no, I want to shift my relationship to this exercise. I want to apply this idea of micro progressions. And instead of me just going through my normal routine before I do the exercise, I'm just going to go right into it. I'm not going to give myself the time to mentally, make it harder on myself, start thinking about how difficult it's going to be and yada, yada. Nope. I'm just going to go right into it. And so I walked up to the wall. I could see my shadow on the wall, and I wanted, and so I wanted to make sure that like my chest was out, my shoulders back, my head up. So I adjusted my posture. I walked towards the wall, put my hands down, kicked straight up, and then just went right into my handstand presses. I didn't even give myself a chance to like take a breath before I did the first one. I just kicked up and started going. And I cranked them out. I cranked out all the ones that I needed to do for those reps. And when I came off the wall, man, I acknowledged myself. I was like, dude, that was awesome. In my mind, I was like, man, that was great. Badass. Nice job, man. Way to just go and face it and, re-script, because that's what I'm working on. That's the idea of like the micro progression in this case. It's the re-scripting of the way that I approach this exercise. Normally I do it in this style, but now I want to start doing it in that style because the original style was getting me just tripped up in my head, right? I was believing that it was hard. I was believing that my body can't do as many reps today as I could do 5 years ago. I was believing that I got to take my time, and I was literally creating that experience. They were hard, the reps were challenging, and sometimes I got frustrated. So it was magical for me this morning to just bypass that and really work on this idea of making a micro, tiny shift. And it was just one exercise, one set of reps out of an entire hour and a half workout, right? It's not like I did this on every single exercise. I just picked one, and it spanned the course of 15 seconds. So it was like a 15-second micro improvement that I made. And to me, that is awesome magic, and it is so worth celebrating. Whether it's big or small, all magic counts. So that is my magic for today. Now, I invite you to hit pause on the episode. Just hit pause and reflect on what your magical moment is from today, yesterday, over the weekend, last week, whatever. Really sit and think about it. Like, how have I influenced myself? How have I influenced another person? Or how have I influenced life in the past couple of days? What have I done to create a magical moment? And you've got them. You've got them. And I really want you to not get tripped up about this. It doesn't have to be big, right? It doesn't have to be like, oh, I saw somebody who was clearly down on their luck, and so I gave them $500. That was magic. It's like, sure, that's a big piece of magic, but you know what? Choosing to get up the first time your alarm went off rather than the third time it goes off, that's magic as well. And that magic is so worth celebrating because you influenced yourself in an empowering way. So hit pause, reflect on your magic, and then we're going to move on to some listener love. And today's listener love, I got a really great message on Instagram recently. So today's listener love goes out to Taylor on Instagram. Taylor, what's up, man? I really appreciate you reaching out, brother. I appreciate your message and sharing with me that, the podcast had connected with you. And in particular, you shared that an episode that I did back in April of 2019 when I was reflecting on this article by Jason Rogers. And I did a whole podcast around this article. And for those of you who haven't listened to it yet, Jason Rogers is an Olympian. He's an Olympic fencer. And he's this badass dude, Olympian, super athlete, real handsome guy. And in this Men's Health article, he talks about how his biggest struggles haven't been in the arena, in the Olympic arena. It's been in the bedroom. And he talks about his struggles with his own, sexual confidence. And I really connected with that article. I have been there. I've had my own struggles that I've been working through for many, many, many years. So I did a whole podcast about it. And so Taylor, I appreciate that, you wanted to share with me that article or that podcast episode resonated with you, and for me, it's always powerful to connect with other men who are willing to be vulnerable and are willing to discuss these real things that go on. So, Taylor, I appreciate you. Thank you for your boldness and your vulnerability. Thank you for connecting with me, and I look forward to more conversations with you. If you haven't listened to that episode I did back in April of 2019, it is called Sexual Confidence and Male Performance Anxiety, a vulnerable sex conversation inspired by Jason Rogers. So go check it out. It's really awesome. And then once you listen to the episode, go check out Jason's article. It's still up. Again, I believe it's Men's Health. Let me just check this link. Where is it? Probably should have had this done earlier, right? But yeah, Men's Health article. So go check that out. And if some of you are thinking yo, you just put Taylor on blast. You just told all his business. Well, Taylor's not his real name. I shifted his name up. Don't worry. I'm not putting anybody's personal business out there on this podcast. So you don't have to worry about that. But you know what? I will not apologize ever for celebrating boldness and particularly vulnerability when it comes to sex with men. I will not apologize about that because us men, we are programmed and conditioned to keep that stuff covered up, to not talk about it, to feel shameful about it. And I went through so many years of that where I believe that things that I was thinking and experiencing were wrong and there was something off with me and something wrong with my body. And that had such a tremendous impact on my confidence as a man, my confidence when it came to dating women and being with women. And so the fact that Taylor reached out, the fact that Jason Rogers spoke up and wrote his podcast, and the fact that I'm here talking about this now, I'll never apologize about that. And I will always be one who discusses these things out in the open because we need to be talking about them. So that is my listener love for today. And this is great. Again, I love feeling pumped up and energetic because this is just a great conversation as we roll into the main topic today, which is, once again, all about money. So, money is one of those big taboo topics in our culture. I just touched on one of them a few seconds ago. Sex, that's a big taboo topic. Nobody wants to talk about sex. Religion, right? People get real heated about religion. Politics, man, the past year or so, that tears families apart. Politics. And then money. And, they say that money can ruin your friendships. Don't go into business with friends and family members. It's going to ruin everything. And, money ruins relationships and business partnerships and all that. And you know what? It's not the money that does that. It's the way that you relate to the money. It's your maturity around the money. That is what breaks things down. And we have so many breakdowns when it comes to money, like personal, internal breakdowns, and then, as I just mentioned, breakdowns with other people. And so this month, the month of March, I want you to address money. I want you to address your relationship to money, your habits around money, and your thoughts around money. All right? You've heard me say in this podcast before that habits are an art form, A-R-T. That means we have habitual actions, A. We have habitual relationships, R, meaning how we feel about things. And we have habitual thoughts, T, A-R-T, actions, relationships, thoughts. You have an art form around your money. And what I want you to do this month is figure out where in your actions, your relationships, or your thoughts do you have a disempowering relationship with money? Where are your actions, relationships, or thoughts not serving you? Where are they taking you down? Where are they pulling your energy down? Where is there scarcity? Where is there lack? I want you to identify that this month and then work on addressing it. You don't have to hit home runs, right? We're not talking about making these massive breakthroughs. It's about these small little gains. Small little gains. So for example, if just the idea of thinking about your money makes you feel all sweaty and hot and uncomfortable, then the goal might be, let's get that sweatiness and discomfort from an 8 out of 10 to like a 4 out of 10. That's a gain right there. And then maybe one day it's a 2 out of 10. And then maybe one day when you think about money, instead of being intimidated and feeling uncomfortable, maybe you start to feel excited. Maybe you start to feel like, wow, I got all these options. Look at all this possibility, right? And over time, you can get there. If you aren't there today, don't worry. You can get there. So one of the things that I believe about money is that it's not necessarily how much money that we have. That's the thing really to focus on, especially in the beginning. It's about your core beliefs around your money. It's about your maturity with your money. And it's about the plan that you have for your money. Yes, the amount of money does matter. And there's some studies out there that have said that up until $75,000 of annual income, it really does make a big difference of how much money you have, right? If you go from $40,000 a year to $45,000 a year, that's pretty darn big. And that can be a significant shift in a person's quality of life. And that continues until you get to around $75,000. Then between $75,000 and around $200,000, it does improve, but it's not as drastic and dramatic as it is when you're under $75,000. And then when you get over $200,000, some of these studies actually say your joy around money goes down. It's like that more money, more problems. After you get a certain amount, that responsibility, the weight of managing all that money can impact a person's overall levels of joy and peace. So I definitely want you to be able to have enough money to fund your lifestyle and to put money away for savings and to pay off your debts and do all that great stuff. I'm absolutely holding space for you that you can get there, whatever your goal is. And I really want you to shift up your relationship to money, because there are millionaires who feel very scarce. Yes. There are people with so much money they don't know what to do with that feel totally paralyzed with anxiety around it, and who even take themselves out. They're just like, nope, I can't deal with this. I'm taking myself out. That happens. So again, it's not necessarily how much money you have. It's your relationship towards that money. And that's something that I want you to become more aware of this month. So what I'm going to do in the rest of this conversation today, I'm going to do 3 things. First, I'm going to share with you my money story, because I think in hearing my story, you might be able to relate and you might see yourself in some of the things that I did and put myself through. Then I'm going to talk to you about some basics that you must have to build an empowering relationship to money and to ultimately grow your money. Then I'm going to give you some resources that are going to be able to help you with where you're at in your money journey. And these are resources that I've used. So I'm not going to share with you anything that I haven't personally used myself. But I do have a handful of things that I found really helpful, and I want to share with you those resources. All right. Let's kick it off with my money story, because money and I have had such an interesting relationship, and it has gone up and down and left and right. And I have gone from feeling so freaking abundant that I was so confident money is just coming and flowing, and I'm in so much faith, and the money is showing up. I've gone from that space to all the way at the bottom and having super negative amounts of money in my bank account, like very red account, and creditors calling me and me dodging any number that I didn't know on my phone because it was going to be a creditor. And I've swung to both sides. So for me, I really didn't have any awareness around money growing up until I hit about 10, 11 years old. Prior to that, my life was just very carefree. And, I was just able to be a kid, and I'm very grateful for that. I lived in a, nice neighborhood, lived in a nice house, and had access to different things. And, we just lived and did our thing. When I got to be about 10, that's when my parents got divorced and the money situation changed. Now instead of a single home and two incomes supporting that, we now had two different homes. Both my parents were working, and money ended up getting tighter. And this is where the first memories of scarcity for me took place, because I very vividly remember, I don't know how many occasions, but all that needed to happen was this needed to happen one time. I remember one time we didn't have money at our house for groceries, and there was a child support payment issue. And I remember some sort of comment that my mom made about the child support, and then me going to my dad and saying, "Where's our child support check? We need to get some groceries." And even today, like, I'm not 100% positive on the details of that, right? It could have been adjusted a little bit, but that doesn't matter, because what connected in my brain was that we don't have enough. We don't have enough. And then there was another moment in time. Again, I don't know how many times this happened, but I remember once we didn't have the heat on in the house. And another time we didn't have the lights on. And what's really interesting, this is kind of an aha moment that I had recently, the heat not being on and the lights not being on could have been for so many different reasons, right? It could have been a storm that knocked it out. It could have been construction that knocked those things out. I don't know what it was, but all these years later, I connected it to us not having the money to pay those bills. And it went back to this idea that we don't have enough. So around that middle school age, that belief started to incept that there is not enough for me. There is not enough for us. And so I carried that. I carried that with me for years. And that one little belief that was planted by an incident or a situation where I don't even know the full details of it, but just that one little belief in my fertile mind was enough for it to grow roots that I'm still pulling out today. And I can almost guarantee you, if you have a disempowering relationship towards money, you've got a similar story. And it doesn't even matter if it's based on reality or not, because to you it was real. Because to me, it was very real that we didn't have enough. And so that belief of we don't have enough led me to not ask for things from my parents, led me to believe that we just didn't have the means for different things, led me to compare myself to my friends who did have more money, led me to feel really guilty when people would ask about my parents' professions. And I would say, oh, my dad's a doctor, mom's a nurse, and they all just assume that we are swimming in money. It created so much mental and emotional turmoil for me from that one little belief. So as I got older and started making my own money, my first job when I was 16, I was working at a grocery store. The money that came in, I felt like it was going to be gone so fast. And so I didn't save any of it. It was like, if it's going to be gone anyway, let me spend it rather than, it going to something else. So I would always blow my paycheck. Always. I would drink and eat my paycheck away. Alcohol and food. Occasionally I might buy something for myself, but it was pretty much alcohol, food, and gas for my car, and that basically continued till I got to college. And then in college, I took out loans. And I had no idea what that really meant. Because I had this scarcity belief and believed that I didn't have enough money, it helped to keep me in this very immature place. Because what it did is it made me intimidated about money. Like, money was this thing that I wasn't meant to have, clearly, because I created this belief and I saw through this lens of I don't have money. And so I became very intimidated by money. So money conversations about investing, conversations about savings, those things really, really intimidated me. And even though my parents would stress these things, they would talk about, it's important to put money away into savings. It's important to do this or that. It never became a habit. It was just like a in one ear, out the other type thing with me. So my maturity around money was very low. My intimidation with money was very high. And my beliefs around money and my ability to make money, hold on to money, compound the money, that was very, I would just say, unhealthy. And so go to college, I take out these loans, and that was the beginning of me putting my head in the sand. Because when I took out the loans, as long as I was a student, I didn't have to pay it back. I could defer the payments. And so what that helped me do is it helped me to build this, once again, this relationship that I have this money. I know there's this thing called a loan, but I don't have to touch it and look at it right now, so I'm not going to. So my head got buried in the sand. So disempowering beliefs around money, very low maturity around money, and feeling very intimidated. And now I'm burying my head in the sand, pretending that things don't exist. So by the time that I graduated, they start coming back and knocking on my door for these loans. Like, hey, you got to pay this, brother. You're out of school now. And I started to try to duck and dodge. And by that point, I had also racked up a couple medical bills because playing sports in college, I had a couple injuries, landed me in the hospital, and now I had medical bills too. So I'm dodging phone calls from medical bill people trying to collect money, and after graduating, I'm now trying to avoid paying back my student loans. So you can see I'm creating a very, very great picture of, you could probably see where this is going. You know what I mean? Like, Matthew is not very responsible with money, very low maturity, very high fear. And I just felt that, this was a scary area for me. Like, it was scary to talk about money, and I really didn't know how to save. And so through college, I worked all these different jobs, but I didn't save. I never really built up that habit. And so then when I got my first job out of college, and it was a low paying job, I worked at a startup company. So I felt like, well, I can't save because I don't make enough money. And that was a very interesting belief that I had for the next 15 years. I can't save because I don't make enough. And, well, not 15 years. I'll say maybe like 8 years. And so here I am working this job out of college. And I remember very, very vividly, I think it was, doesn't matter. I just remember checking my bank account. And I don't know how this happened. Maybe the creditors finally figured out a way to get my money, because I went to check my bank account and I was negative several $100s. And I remember being on the phone with one of those companies. It was either a credit card, the hospital, or the student loan. And, they're asking for their payments and this and that. And I looked at my bank account. It was negative several $100s. I had no money. At that point, I was living in an apartment. I had a dog. So I had another being that I needed to take care of, vet bills, dog food, things like that. My apartment wasn't that expensive, but it was still, like at $600 a month. And the job that I worked at had already asked me to take one pay cut because it's a startup company and we gotta squeeze all we can out of our employees. So can we pay you a little bit less? And I just remember sitting on the ground just feeling like, wow, this feels like bottom financially for me. It just felt like I felt very helpless, like I had nowhere to turn. And I don't know exactly what I did next, but I believe I asked my parents for money. And that was something I never wanted to do because along with the low maturity and the intimidation, I had a lot of pride. So I never wanted to ask anybody for help. That to me was weakness, asking for help. So in this case, I believe that I asked my parents for money so I could at least have some money in the bank, get some food on the table, and put some gas in the car. And I would like to say that that was a turning point for me. It would be really cool if the story was like, yeah, I was out there in the front and I said to myself, I'm never going to be this broke again. And I changed all my habits and nah, that is not how it happened. Not at all. I just continued, the money came back in the account. I got paid the next month and just kind of kept on rolling. And for the next several years, I just continued with the same habits. No savings. At this point, I'm paying minimums on my debts. So I did learn that you can't escape those debts. And I did learn that when something goes into collections, it jacks up your credit. And I knew enough to know that I didn't want my credit to be jacked up. So, a couple years later, after that incident, I am paying off these loans, but I'm only paying minimums. And so years are going by with me paying minimums, and I'm realizing that my balance is rarely ever going down, and my money is basically going towards interest. So, a $10,000 credit card that I've racked up the entire balance to, I'm probably going to end up paying $20,000 back by just paying minimums over all these years. So it really wasn't until I got married that I started to address some of these things. And, part of the reason was that now there's another person who's being impacted by my art forms around money. And so that was motivating for me to start looking at things because, Sarah and I entered into our relationship very honest, very transparent, and being willing to be vulnerable. And this was the beginning of my personal development journey as well. So I'm like, shoot, I got to address this stuff. So with her, we're having these conversations and, babe, this is my student loan debt and this is my credit score and here's what we got in the bank. And so that helped because for the first time I was addressing it, and I was addressing it with a person that was holding the space of greater possibility and was helping me to feel like this was a hole that we could dig ourselves out of. Before, I really didn't know how I was going to change this. Maybe I thought there was going to be some sort of windfall that was just going to erase all of it, or like a clerical error, like in Monopoly or something. But when I got together with Sarah, we started looking at it. And as soon as you shine a light on something, that thing gets a little bit smaller, gets a little bit less scary. And so as we started shining the light on my money situation and her money situation, it became a little bit less intimidating. And just that little amount of less intimidation helped me to start moving in a more empowered direction around money. And so a few years later, we joined a small group called a COI, Circle of Influence. And this was really where my financial maturity, my financial habits, and my overall feelings about money really started to take a turn. Because in this group, we talked about our money. This group was about transparency across the board in life. We're not keeping any secrets. We're not hiding anything, including money. So let's look at it. Let's get real clear on it, and we'll help you to form a plan to address it. And so in this group, we would just talk about our money, and we followed Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps. And I'm going to share that in a little bit when I get into more resources. But following Dave Ramsey's 7 Baby Steps, having this accountability group where we would talk about what's your savings, how much is in your account, how much did you add over this past week? Okay, great. You have $50 in your savings account and you added $1. Awesome. Congratulations. You're a badass. You now have $51. Let's celebrate that. Like, that's what I needed. I needed somebody that helped me to understand that even a small step forward is a step forward. Because all these years, I'm comparing myself to the people in the books that are saying, you need to have this much money in savings and you want this and that. And I'm like, yo, I am so far beyond that I can't relate at all to where you are. And nowhere was I really getting this encouragement that, hey, man, one tiny step in the forward direction is fantastic, and let's celebrate that step. So I started getting that in our COI group, and I really leaned into it. We would set goals every week in COI, and many weeks I would make my goals financial goals. And it would be like, all right, let's create a spreadsheet to track money coming in and money going out so that we can see what it is. Let's set up an account on mint.com so that we can be able to look at all of our accounts in one place, And so those types of things, those types of moves were the beginning of me getting to where I am today. So over the years, we just kept sticking with it, and we kept looking at our money. Sarah and I kept facing our money fears and our scarcity, our scarce mindsets and scarce beliefs. And it literally was something that her and I did together. We helped each other through it. Our accountability group helped us as well. And week by week, month by month, we just chiseled away. And by chiseling away, I mean, if I had a fear of looking at a budget, then every week we're going to try to look at a budget. Every month we're going to really dive deep into the numbers. And we're just going to chisel away at these fears and chip away until the fear slowly starts to dissolve. Something else that my coach Day said to me one time about fear is he said, fear is like butter and courage is like fire. If you apply fire and heat to butter, it melts. If you apply courage to that fear, it's going to slowly melt away. But as soon as you remove the fire and the heat, right? As soon as you remove the courage, the butter gets hard again. The fear gets hard again. So I equated that, or I used that in my money fears. And I said, I just need to look at my numbers constantly. Like every week, I need to put my eyes on my bank account because I started to develop a fear about opening my bank account. Literally opening up at the time it was Wachovia way back in the day. I guess it's Wells Fargo's now. I would open my Wells Fargo account on the computer or go to the ATM, and I was always scared at the number that was going to be there because I remember opening my bank account that one day and seeing negative hundreds of dollars. So I always had this fear that I'm going to open my account and it's going to be depleted and wiped out. So I never would look at it. I would never look at my bank account. I would take my paychecks, deposit them, and I'd never look at it. So when I say chipping away at fears and applying that heat, I'm talking about simple things like logging into your bank account and seeing what's in there. And then clicking on transactions and seeing what transactions are there and making sure there's nothing there that surprises you. That was the type of thing that Sarah and I just did consistently every week, every month, for year after year after year after year. And it worked. It worked. We started to grow in our confidence around money. We started to grow in our abundance, how we felt about the money we had. Because as we put eyes on the money, we realized that we've got more money than we thought, or we can do more things than we thought. Right? Because before, if I'm afraid to put my eyes on the money, I may not realize that I'm still paying all this money to a Netflix account that I never use, and that's $15 a month or whatever it is. And then when I started putting my eyes on it, I'm like, oh, snap. I don't need this subscription anymore. Let me cancel that junk. Oh, my goodness. I just made $15 per month. What do I want to do with that money now? And so that habit of just looking at it, it helped us to feel more abundant, feel more confident, feel like we were actually getting on top of our money issues, even if it was just little by little by little. And that empowered us to then seek out additional tools and more accountability. So we started to use a spreadsheet to track all of our expenses. And we started to use mint.com to keep track of all of our different accounts. Sarah had several accounts. I had several accounts. And we used it to track all of our spending as well, because mint.com does a great job of pooling all your transactions and putting them in categories so you can see exactly where your money is going. And for almost my entire professional career, I've been an entrepreneur. And that means I've had irregular income. Being a coach and the type of entrepreneur that I am, my income isn't regular month to month. Some months it could be tens of thousands. Other months it'll be like 1,000. And that's how it was. So I needed to learn how to do a budget and to see my money and forecast. I had to learn these things. Like, they didn't teach me that in business school. not like real life, real world personal finance accounting. I didn't learn that stuff. I learned, theories and how to do certain things. And I certainly did pick up some great tips on using spreadsheets. And I remember one of my master's classes, the professor said, the most important thing you're going to learn in all of this master's program is how to be really proficient with Excel. And I can understand that now. So I had to learn all these different things on my own. But slowly, over time, I started to pick up more and more and more skills and more confidence. And then that was kind of like one of the first steps for me, is to get those skills and confidence. What really took my money situation to the next level was to grow in my faith. And by faith, I mean my trust and my surrender. Because even though I was building up these habits, I still was very scarce around money. I believed that, I would worry about where money was going to come from. And that was keeping me in a certain place. And so it really wasn't until I developed greater faith, meaning greater trust, that I am always going to be provided for, that the universe is always going to be provided for me, and that I've never truly gone without. Even when I had no money in my bank account, I still ate that night. I still had a bed to sleep in. I still had gas to get to work the next day. Even when it looks totally dire and I have no options, I still was okay. And reflecting on that and reminding myself of that helped develop more faith. And that faith led to me, again, gaining my confidence, developing more and more reps around money. And it helped with the feeling of feeling financially abundant. And as I felt more abundant, and I felt, of course, my money goals are going to come to fruition. Of course. What that did is that shifted how I looked at opportunities. I started to take different paths and receive and accept different opportunities. I won't even say that I took different risks, because to me it wasn't a risk, because my faith was so high. My trust was so high. So even if the thing didn't work out, I still knew that ultimately it was going to work out. So it wasn't even that I started taking bigger risks. I just started to spot opportunities and to treat those opportunities different. And that led to bigger projects. That led to bigger and cooler things I was doing with my businesses, which led to more money. And it just continues, and it still snowballs to this day. So that is in a nutshell, not the briefest of nutshells, but that's been my experience with money. And today I still deal with some of that scarcity. Of course, because that shit was so wired into my brain from that early age, when I believed that we did not have enough, that I did not have enough. And those roots went deep, and they're still not fully pulled out yet. And, it's okay. I'm about those micro progressions. I'm about making slow progress over time. And so, today when Sarah and I talk about money, we get excited. And one of the things that we do, which has been so effective for us, is we connect sexually before we get into big money conversations. So we'll make love, and then we'll go look at our numbers. And one of the things that Sarah said, I thought it was so badass. She's like, you know what? I want to start associating orgasms with money to the point that when I start thinking about money, it turns me on. I was like, yes, mama. Yes, I'm down for that. That is a huge 180-degree shift from when I would think about money and I would get scared to now thinking about money and it turns me on. That's what I'm playing for. And I'm absolutely moving in that direction. And it is very cool because it is very different than how I've always experienced money. And so, now Sarah and I, we have vision boards. We put things out there, intentions for what we want to do with our money. We're very, very intentional. Anytime that we have money coming into us, we have a plan for it. Like I have a plan for every dollar that I know is coming. And the money that I don't know is coming yet, but it shows up, I know where I'm going to put that as well. And what that has done is I believe that has created the space for more money to show up. The space has to be created for something to then come in and fill it. And when it is created, something will fill it. And so, for example, literally creating the space for money to come to be saved, we opened up savings accounts. Now there's a bunch of money in those savings accounts. Right? And we did things like that, and that has been very effective for us. And I'm not saying if you go out today and open up a savings account, all of a sudden tomorrow someone's going to be like, yo, here's $5,000, put it in your savings. Yet, I do 1,000% believe in space creation. Because for me, that's possibility. You've got to open up and create the space for a different money experience, for a different money conversation. You've got to believe that it's possible. Because if you don't believe it's possible, it's not going to happen. You're just going to stay in the same loop, same rut. So that's my money story. And once again, my intention with that was so that you could, hear a very real money story, one that's gone from feeling like I got no hope with money to, Sarah and I recently became 100% debt free. And that's awesome. And I got some big plans for the money that keeps pouring in, and it's exciting. And it turns me on. Like I get so pumped now thinking about our money, and I was not that way in the past. So hopefully if you could relate to where I've been, then you can see and hear that it's possible for you to create a different experience and a different reality around money. Now, let's flow into some of the basics that you got to have in order to have a different experience and different reality. The first thing, you got to know your numbers. You have to know your numbers. If you don't know your numbers, you're not going to shift anything, right? And part of knowing your numbers is getting out of denial, right? The denial that, oh, no, things are great. Oh, no, my partner takes care of everything. No. All this stuff is denial and just keeps you in that space of either not being empowered, believing it's not your responsibility, or continuing to feed you the story that you're not good at it or it's not meant for you. So you got to know your numbers. And by know your numbers, I mean how much money is coming in each month, how much money is going out each month. Real simple. There's a lot of different ways that you can keep track of it. Sarah and I use a spreadsheet, Google Spreadsheets. And we look at money coming in and money going out. And we do it across our personal, our household, and our businesses. So money coming in and out of our house, money coming in and out of my business, and money coming in and out of our joint business. That's what we do. Some people call it budgeting. I don't typically like the word budgeting. Budget for me always felt like I was restricting something, right? And so I just look at it as my numbers. I just call it my numbers. Hey, Sarah, let's go look at the numbers. And in that, we make a plan for our dollars, right? We do what's called zero-based budgeting. And that's essentially you look at how much money that you're projected to bring in the month, and you spend every dollar of it until it's down to zero. And by spend, I just really mean allocate. So it's like if you make $10,000 in a month, you're like, all right, $1,500 goes towards rent, $1,000 goes towards food, yada, 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 all the way down. And you're like, $1,000 goes towards our debts, $1,500 goes towards our savings, and you literally spend it all the way down to zero. That's something that we've done to understand money in and money out. Next, basic thing, you got to know your debt. How much debt do you have? How much debt are you carrying right now? What is the numbers of the debt? How many different debts do you have? And what's the interest rate? You got to know those things, and what are the minimums and what are you actually paying down on those things? I was such an ostrich with this. I just had my head in the sand. I didn't want to know any of it until it was basically, I had racked up student loan debt, medical bill debt, and several credit cards debt. And then it was like, all right, let's take a look. And now I got 5 big old debts to face and to, get rid of. But at that point, you're staring at tens and tens of thousands of dollars of debt, even more. Like, that seems like an insurmountable mountain. But listen, there's no way in hell you're ever going to climb that mountain if you keep your head in the sand. So you have to start looking at it. You have to start facing it. And so in our spreadsheet, we have a tab that's just for the debts. How much is it? What's the interest rate? What are the dates that it's due? What are the minimum payments? And what are we choosing to pay? That's how we really faced it and looked at it. Next, you got to know and you have to be able to see those financial sticky situations. Like, what are those things that are landmines that you're about to step on that you might be avoiding or you don't even really know about? So for example, like if you're clearly living above your means, like you got a way too expensive car note, or your house is just, or your apartment or whatever is just way too expensive for what is realistic and smart for you right now. Like, that's a landmine that you're going to step on one day because it will catch up to you. If you're spending more than you're taking in, that's a financial sticky situation you need to address, because the longer you don't look at it, the worse it's going to get. So when I say sticky situations, it's stuff like that. And then it's things that are just nagging at you. Like, is there anything about your money that is in the back of your mind and just doesn't go away? It's always there. Like one debt maybe, or one credit card, or something maybe that you haven't done yet. Maybe you're like, oh, I need to get this will taken care of. I need to get this will. But you keep putting it off. Whatever it is, you want to start addressing those things. You don't have to erase the mountain of debt all at once, but let's start looking at it. Let's start addressing it. And so that leads me to the next basic you got to have: some sort of plan. Have some sort of plan. Once you look at your numbers, once you look at your debt and all that, come up with some sort of plan. And if you don't know how to do it, this is where I really want you to get over that ego and just ask for some help. Somebody in your life can help you come up with a plan. Somebody. Like, I think of the show The Office, and Michael Scott was in all this debt and he just wasn't looking at it, and Oscar, one of the accountants, was there to help him come up with a plan. So go find your Oscar. Who is that person that can help you come up with some sort of plan? And figure out what is a realistic plan for you. And then figure out, how are you going to achieve that plan? Right? What is the plan? How are you going to achieve it? What are the steps? And then what help do you need? And a lot of times, if you're like me and you are very low on maturity, then you need to be high on accountability. You have to be. If you're low on maturity, you have to increase the accountability. Otherwise, it just won't work. Think back to my story. Low on maturity, when I stepped into an accountability group, I leveraged them and I used them to help me be accountable around my money. So they held me accountable because I wasn't able to do it myself because I was so low in maturity. Today, it's different. My maturity is higher, so I don't need all those exterior accountability or external accountability measures anymore. I still have some, but I don't need as many. So figure out what accountability you need. So that means ask somebody. Ask somebody who has a better grip on their money than you do. And listen, your broke friend who is more scared of money than you are, that's not the person that you want holding you accountable. Okay? Go find somebody who knows more than you do in this area, who is in a different financial space, a better financial space than you are, and see if they'll hold you accountable. And lastly, one of the basics that I believe you need to start addressing is just looking at your energy around money and working on addressing the energy that you have around money. Again, if you're feeling real scarce, real scared, real intimidated, then you need to get around some energy that is the opposite of those things. Some abundant energy, some excited energy. Like, go and here's some ideas for you. Go and find some Facebook groups, some personal finance Facebook groups where there are some conversations, real conversations around money that are happening that you can just read. You don't have to post or anything. Just join them and just go and poke around in there and see how people talk about money. Go onto YouTube or find a blogger or a YouTuber or a podcaster who has some great energy and great maturity around money, who talks about money and does it in a way that jives with you, and watch them, read them, listen to them, follow them. Even if they're way out of your league, that's fine. You just want to be around different money energy. You got to start putting yourself in some different energy. And then I want you to address your triggers. Like, you've got money triggers. When someone says something, or the bill shows up, or you get a phone call from a number that you don't recognize, like, all those things triggered me all the time. You got to start addressing them, right? And it's peeling back some layers and figuring out, why does that trigger me? What is going on here that really triggers me? And so for me, one of the things that triggered me was it supported this idea of I don't have enough, is that when I would open my wallet, it would always be empty, no money in there. So as a piece of feedback from a member of my current COI, he said to me, you know what? Carry around a few $100 bills in your wallet, so that every time you open it up, you see it. The next day I went to the bank and I put $200 in my wallet, 200 bills, two $100 bills. And every single time I open my wallet to pay for something, I look at that money. Every single time. I don't care if I'm paying with a card or a gift card, whatever. I open it up, I flip to where the bills are, and I grab those two bills and I pull them out and I put them back in. Because every time I do that, I'm reminding myself that I am abundant, that I have more than enough. And I like $100 bills because I never carried $100 bills when I was younger. I never did. So I'm carrying those $100 bills, and they're crisp and they're fresh and they look beautiful and I love them, and they're hanging out in my wallet. And every single time I open it, I put eyes on them and I feel great. So those are some basics and some things to look at. And lastly, as we wrap up here today, I want to leave you with some resources, some things that you can go check out and research, purchase, watch, do all that great stuff, because I didn't do this stuff by myself. I had a lot of great resources. The first resource was accountability. Find some sort of accountability. Lean on a person, a friend, a stranger, doesn't matter, a Facebook group, whatever. Get some accountability around money so that you can start being around different money conversations. Next resource I recommend is mint.com, M-I-N-T. And I love Mint. I still use it today. These aren't affiliate links or anything, by the way. These are just, that'd be great if I did get paid from this, but I don't. I'm just sharing with you what I dig. Mint.com is a great place to keep track of your spending, to create budgets, to create plans, all sorts of great stuff. It really just helps you to put 360-degree view on your money. So go check it out. Here are some books that I recommend. Financial Peace by Dave Ramsey. That book was a game changer for me because it gave me a framework that I could then follow. Before Financial Peace, I had an objective and a goal, but I had no idea how to get there. After I was introduced to it and went through it, I learned of the 7 baby steps, and I started following them. Baby step number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Go and Google them for yourself, and you can go to daveramsey.com, R-A-M-S-E-Y, daveramsey.com. You can check out the Financial Peace book. You can check out the 7 baby steps. And if you're just need help with like budgeting and stuff, he's got free budgeting tools to help you to create a budget, a spreadsheet, so that you can track money in, money out. So go check out Dave Ramsey. I also used nerdwallet.com. nerd.com, Nerd wallet.com. And that was really helpful for looking at things like credit cards, like what credit card should I get, or what are the different rewards points and stuff, and investing and learning about loans and finding the right bank. Like when Sarah and I were looking for banks for our savings account, we didn't know which one to go to. So I went to NerdWallet and ended up finding our bank through there. So go check out NerdWallet. It's just great information. A few more books. Jeff Rose, he's an author. He's actually a former soldier, and he's big on YouTube. I think he's probably best known for his YouTube channel. Jeffrose. He has a book called Soldier of Finance, and it helped me with some basic stuff, like basic things, building basic money habits. Soldier of Finance was helpful. I found his YouTube page even more helpful. So if you Google search Jeff Rose on YouTube, you'll find it. He's this handsome dude who talks all about money. He's got like cool graphics, and it's like well-produced videos. So you'll know if you see that, you found the right place. That's over on YouTube. Another book that both Sarah and I read that we enjoyed was You Are a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero. That book was really about mindset. It was like 95% mindset. And that was helpful because both Sarah and I had pretty disempowering mindsets. And Jen has a, rags to riches story. And she talks about the things that really worked for her. So go check that out. And then lastly, this book I have listened to, the audiobook. I haven't read the whole thing yet. It's by Tony Robbins. It's called Money, Master the Game. And I found this book to be more advanced than where I am. So it was cool to just dig in and just be around some really high level money and personal finance and investment conversations. Yet it was a little bit higher than where I was and where I am right now. But I still like having it. I still like tuning in because I'm like, I'm playing for that. I want to be able to be super well versed in my finances to where everything in this book makes sense to me. So Money, Master the Game, that's another book. And that's it. Those are my resources for you. I'm so serious about this being our money month. Like, you can do it. Whatever financial reality you want for yourself, it is so possible. It is so freaking possible. And all you need to do is just take small steps. And listen, I know just as well as anybody how intimidating money can be. I know how much you want to blame your parents or your guardians for not equipping you with more, financial wherewithal. But listen, you're grown now. It's all on you. It's nobody's fault. Whatever situation you find yourself in, I don't care what it is, it's nobody's fault. Right? And it's nothing that can't be fixed. So adjust your attitude, adjust your perspective, start looking at your art forms. What are your art forms around money? Your actions, your relationships, your thoughts. Are they healthy? Are they empowering? Are they abundant? If they are, great. Keep at it. Keep at it. See where you can turn it up even more. If they're not, address those because that's going to take you down, guaranteed. So if you have questions, if anything I said today you want me to go into more depth on, please don't hesitate to reach out. Matthew@MatthewBivens.com is my email. I'm also at Matthew_Bivens on Instagram. I am happy to answer any questions you have. If you need me to send more links to those resources, I'm happy to do that as well. And I'm here for you. I'm here for you. I'm definitely holding space and holding that energetic space for you. And then I'm also here as a resource if I can offer any assistance at all. All right. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for today's conversation. This one was like jam-packed. I'm super pumped by it. This was fantastic. I love that you stuck with me through all this money talk. And just thank you again for choosing to have it all. It's a beautiful thing. So I appreciate you. I love you. My name is Matthew Bivens. Here is to you having it all.
Quick note about the Having It All podcast. I am not a doctor nor a licensed therapist. I'm a guy with a story and a passion for conscious conversation. My thoughts, opinions, and beliefs are my own. So please consult with your doctor or healthcare provider regarding any questions or issues you have related to your personal, physical, or mental health.